Hello and welcome to this very special conversation on the Money Mile. This is Nivesh Kar Befikar, a partnership that we have forged with PolicyBazaar, a pioneer in online distribution and advisory for insurance. Two very eminent guests here with me today. There's Tarun Chugh, who's the Managing Director and CEO at Bajaj Allianz. Great talking to you, Tarun. You've come all the way from Pune, so thank you very much for making time to come here.
Thank you.
And of course, Yashish Dahiya. Everyone knows him. He's a person who probably doesn't sleep if you haven't innovated once a day. And you've done something again this morning. So you want to start with that? Tell us a little about what is the new, new age. I think you coined the word 4G for it.
Yeah, I think we all understand telephones very well. And in telephones you have 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G. My point is, when 4G is there, why would you go and buy 2G and 1G products? So 4G is this entire, what you would call the new ULIPs that have been coming out in the last 3 to 4 months. The Bajaj Allianz one being the latest out of them. And I think these are fantastic products. There is, I have spoken to sellers of mutual funds. I've spoken to sellers of other investment products. I've spoken to sellers of other insurance products. And nobody can come up with an argument why these products are not as good or better than everything else out there. So that's why we feel more and more. My concept is very simple. Till you have something very powerful to speak about, there's no point speaking. But when you have something very powerful and fundamental to speak about, you should actually shout from the rooftops and make sure every consumer becomes aware of it. Because consumer awareness or lack of it should not be the reason why great products do not are not bought by consumers. So I think the 4G ULIP is part of that group of products which the consumers should buy in very large numbers and are starting to do so. And I think, but the awareness about them is still very limited. It's only just coming in.
Tarun, this whole new concept or the new age 4G, as Yashish talked about. Let's go back very little into the history because we're just going to take a lot of questions coming in as well. We've had a lot of questions already that are coming in from our viewers. High charges is what ULIPs were known for. Take us through how have you dramatically altered that in the new age ULIPs?
So Vivek, today's ULIPs are a lot different from what you saw maybe 13 years back, 12 years back. So there was one period till 2010 when there was a high charge era. Then there was this 2010 to 2013 when the charges of ULIPs really came under control. And 2013 to 17 when the plain vanilla new ULIPs, which is a third generation, started coming in, which were plain vanilla, simple ULIPs, but actually very customer friendly. And as my friend Yashish talks about it, 4G, we call it new age. The new age ULIPs, which have been starting of this January, as you've seen, people are now saying that, look, we've come of age, we want to value pack a ULIP, make it more interesting for the customer, and offer more at the same price.
I think if I was to think about it, the 3G, as one calls it, was an age which basically answered the question, you want to buy a mutual fund and a term insurance. So why not buy a 3G ULIP instead? It does the same thing as a mutual fund plus term insurance. But there was one question. Some people said, hey, I don't want to, I don't want to have to pay for this term insurance, right? It's still there and there's still some cost for this term insurance. And I think what the 4G actually answered was, I am cheaper, way cheaper than a term plus mutual fund. And actually, standalone, without even including term, I'm competing just with a mutual fund in terms of investment returns. So you can almost, when I speak about 4G, I say from a standpoint of comparison, you can almost take the fact that the term insurance is pretty much there as an add-on. You're not really paying for it. You're just getting it alongside. Because the other benefits you're getting more than cover for the cost of the term insurance. And my honest opinion is, with the recent long-term capital gains coming in on mutual fund, that totally shifts the balance in favor of the ULIP, whether it's 3G or 4G. And 4G has obviously become way smarter. My view is almost, if this had happened earlier, maybe this amount of innovation may not have happened. But with this, it's there's a clear 10% capital gains difference between the two. And it is because you are buying that little amount of term cover. So in my view, that term cover is becoming a very powerful thing for the consumer, through which he's getting a great product and a great investment vehicle for as long as he wants. And remember, that's not limited to the 1.5 lakhs or the 10 lakhs. He can invest pretty much any amount of money and get that tax benefit.
And this mortality charge being given back to you, how does that work?
See, it's not just the mortality charge. I want to press on it. There are certain things that the consumer understands better. So whether it's this tax piece or whether it's the mortality piece, the consumer understands these better because he could see these as costs. The biggest cost in all of these is actually the fund management charge, which the consumer does not understand. Even from the 3G ULIP time frame, 85% of the cost of any of these products is actually in the fund management. And ULIPs have got a lower fund management charge than mutual funds. 95% of the mutual funds that consumers are buying are at 2.25% fund management charge. Most of the ULIPs are at about 1.5% or even lower. So there's a clear difference there. Yes, this is basically taking away the arguments. Because there was this argument, but you still have this charge for term for protection. Because you have to take a life insurance to get the benefits of it being called a ULIP. You have to take the life insurance. First of all, remember, that cost is only for the first 6-7 years. Because after that, your funds have anyways caught up. Your investment has basically covered the cost of your life insurance anyway. That's for the first 5-6 years. So that cost, but I think that's being, even that question is being answered by the 4G players by them saying, you know what, let's give you that money also back. So it's basically killing the argument. If one by one, it's like, one by one you are taking away all the argument pieces, so there is nothing left. Now what do you argue? Okay, the fund management charge is also coming back. Oh, by the way, there's also further loyalty additions happening. Oh, by the way, our cost of the fund management is also lower. Oh, by the way, the long-term capital gains tax is also not there. Now, come on. At some point, customers have to say, "Acha, bahut kuch mil gaya. Let's start buying this now." Yeah, it can't go on and on.
Tarun, the same question that I posed to Yashish on the mortality charge being given back to you. There is a word now being used called loyalty benefits. How does that work for a customer?
So, Yashish almost touched on it. So there are actually quite a few benefits we have on this product. On Goal Assure, we're returning all the mortality charges that you're going to get charged. So now, as Yashish said, there's nothing extra we're charging to the customer, and the fund management charge is just actually 1.35%. It's capped at 1.35%, while the other sector is at pretty high numbers. The other is we actually pack it up with loyalty benefits, we pack it up with return enhancers, and all the goodies that a customer can probably ever hope for, and which most people don't give, right?
Absolutely.
But the new age ULIPs have started doing that. So for us, for example, if you've been with us for 10 years, if it's a 10-year term product 10-year term ULIP you buy, we give you 20% addition of your first premium back to you. So if you put 1,20,000, we pay from our pocket. If you put for 15 years, you get another 40,000. And another, if you stay for 20 years overall, so you get 60%. The whole intent is, as Yashish said, to basically get the customer to understand the value of disciplined, systematic investment over a period of time and as long as possible. See, Vivek, what we've got to understand is that this play that people have thought about, that we'll invest for 1 year or 3 years in equity, it doesn't make sense. I've been long enough in equity markets to say that 5, 7, 10, 15, honestly is a year.
5 years is just the minimum lock-in. It's not the maximum.
Yeah.
Stay invested for as long as you can.
Right.
You really want to get the benefits.
And we are basically ensuring.
What's the minimum ticket size in this? You use the word systematic investment plan.
So it's 3,000 rupees a month.
3,000 rupees a month.
That's it.
Okay. Lots of questions coming in as well, and I'm going to take some of them. Nidhi has sent us this very interesting question. This is for you, Yashish. She says, "Hi Yashish, while all of you have said it's best to buy insurance early, I am now 40, married and just had a baby. I don't have too much insurance barring an HDFC youngster insurance policy for me. What would you now recommend? Is it too late? Have I missed the bus?
First of all, 40 is certainly not late. Of course, it's later than 25. Health insurance, life insurance are the products that one must have, though they're the must have, right? Now, it's when you are thinking of investment that you would come to the ULIP question. And there, all I can say is whether you look at it from a tax perspective, whether you look at it from a cost perspective, whichever perspective you want to look at it from, as long as you have some ability to at least hold on to your funds for at least 5 years, ULIP beats pretty much everything else hands down. And I can have as long a conversation on that as possible. But that is not to say, see, I don't think ULIP is predominantly an insurance product. It has a component of insurance which qualifies it for a certain benefit in terms of tax saving. However, it is predominantly an investment vehicle. What is predominantly a tax saving product is a term insurance and a health insurance and a critical illness protection. So protection against death, disease, disability. Those are pure protection products. And that is something at 40, I hope nothing happens to anybody, but things happen to the people in the world, right? So hospitals are full. It's not, so those things cost money. Those things have financial impact. Those things can set families back. We just got a request on our, I wouldn't say school or college, but one of our groups by somebody asking for a very small amount, about 1.5 lakh rupees from the other class members in the group. And this is a person who had a business before that and was quite well off before that. So we were all shocked. Why is he asking for such a small amount of money? The person had a heart attack, a stroke, issues, some debts, business suffered. The reason he's asking for the money is this is one of our classmates, he's got to pay the school fees and he doesn't have the money. It's a very unfortunate situation. We're all pulling in money, and the reason I have not told you whether it's college or school is because I don't want to kind of let this out, but these things happen, yeah? And these things happen to, perfectly fit and fine people. He's also 45, I'm also 45. So that's the protection angle, which you just can't ignore. When you get to investment, which is priority 2, it's not priority 1. Priority 1 is protection. When you get to priority 2 investment, then I can hand on heart say the ULIP is a fantastic product. Whether you look at tax, whether you look at cost, whether you look at returns, whether you look at flexibility, tomorrow the markets start going down. You've invested in a mutual fund. What do? You want to get out of it. What are you going to do? Short-term capital gains. Short-term, not long-term. Out here, nothing. You just switch from equity to debt. Free. Immediately free. One go. Right? So I think on every count, they are beating other investment opportunities, including the mutual funds. But people need to be aware of it.
Quickly, Vivek, if I can just add to this lady's question, in addition to what Yashish said.
It's a very interesting question. It kind of resonates with a lot of people who may be 40, may not have woken up,
I will call her
we didn't know when we were 20,
I will
25.
call her a young lady.
Yes, she is a young
40 is pretty young, as he alluded to.
Yeah. So you haven't missed the bus, Nidhi. Don't worry.
You haven't, yes.
You're very much on the bus.
So at 40, you're young. The mortality rates in India have come down. So we charge very low now anyways for mortality because India is getting to be a healthier world. The second bit is that if you look at the new age ULIPs, and if you look at our product specifically, we're actually returning a mortality charge. So even at 60, you're young for it. Maybe at 70 also young for it.
Oh yeah, wow. So, that is true.
That's interesting. One more question. In fact, lots of them. So guys, I'm going to just go quickly on this. Can you talk about the flexibility of ULIPs? This is a question coming in from Arnav Jain. Is it possible to withdraw my money in case of any unforeseen situation?
Yeah. So Vivek, fortunately or unfortunately, both ways I'd say, our funds are locked in for 5 years and beyond.
The first 5 years.
The first 5 years. So the way one should look at ULIPs is 5 year and beyond. Like I very clearly said, it's systematic, long-term, disciplined investment. Because see, what today we lack is
So keep your emergency fund in place.
Yes.
But only money which you are not likely to
See,
need.
one, in any case, like Yashish said, keep the emergency insurances in place.
Sure.
So you should have your health insurance, you should have your car insurance, you should have your life insurance, all of it in place, so that for these emergencies you're taken care of. Then for liquidity, etc., you can invest in mutual funds, or you can invest in everything else.
After 5 years, Tarun, if I exit, is there any charges on me to exit?
No.
No charges at all?
No charges.
None at all.
Surrender
Take your money
values,
out.
yeah, you get 100% of your stuff back.
And how quickly do I get the money back?
3 days.
3 days.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So Arnav, that answers your question. Himani has a question. Are there any extra benefits available in ULIPs? You've outlined quite a few of them, Yashish. Anything else you want to add to?
I think the biggest benefit in a ULIP is the flexibility. And I know flexibility is many times used against the ULIP because you have a 5-year lock-in. But what flexibility are we looking at? Let's take most people. Are they looking at flexibility that they will have no more money left and hence they will need this money? Or are they looking for flexibility? What if market scenarios change and I want to move from one thing to the other? That flexibility is highest in the ULIP. That it is that one instrument where there is no charge for moving from equity into debt or from debt into equity. So one can effectively move their money very, very rapidly in a very short span of time. So that is a flexibility. So, you know, something happens, markets are falling, you can move into debt, you can do all of that stuff. So that flexibility is the big one. The second piece, which while I have said this is predominantly an investment vehicle, I think the second piece is in case something does go wrong, which there's always a possibility, then, you know, if you're invested in a fixed deposit or a mutual fund, you'll only get back what you've invested in. Here you do have the insurance component, which is precisely why you're getting all those tax benefits. So I think those are the two key differentiators. One is the tax, one is the flexibility of moving from debt to equity very seamlessly and vice versa. And the second is the genuine life cover that you do get in case something wrong goes on. So suppose you start investing 10 lakh rupees of 2 lakh rupees a year and your plan is that, you know, you get a 20 lakh rupee cover. So this plan will wake up to 20 lakh rupees very soon. Something happens in the next 1.5 years, that 20 lakh rupees is given. So that benefit is there. Let's not kind of walk away from it.
Sure.
Can I give my two bits on this?
Sure.
So, see, I started my career in equity markets back in '94. And I've been on the equity desk. I've seen how people make investment. All my friends are fund managers in various places. I think the one key thing that we all miss out about ULIPs is the fact that investment managers for long-term funds behave very differently than investment managers for short-term.
Sure. Yeah.
Very different behavior.
Yeah.
So we incentivize our fund managers, we monitor our fund managers, they invest fundamental analysis-based calls is what they take for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, and 15 years. And this is what in fact, I was commending Yashish today morning when we launched this at PolicyBazaar, is that we discovered through the PolicyBazaar channel that fund management for insurance schemes for long term is far better than the Sensex, far, far better. The number of times we beat the Sensex is far more than any other sector. And the way the investments are made, that when there's downside, we don't get hit as badly as well. So the customer is taken care of.
Right.
So long-term funds should be put in places where the management style is long-term.
You look at look at the Morningstar rating of even the Bajaj Allianz funds.
Yeah.
They are all at 5-star and 4-star. So they're being rated very well compared to mutual funds in terms of their own investment.
There are independent ratings.
Those are independent ratings. Like Morningstar is not mine, or for mutual funds.
Mutual funds as well. Lakhan Kumar has this question: what are the different types of funds where ULIPs would be invested?
Oh, we have 8 schemes available. It takes care of all kind of risk behaviors that are there. So if you are a person who doesn't want to take much risk, you could go from...
So I buy one scheme and within which there are 8 different...
Yeah. It's very simple. In our case, it's very simple. So you invest in a scheme and you can actually choose the funds that you want.
Okay.
And there are these 8 platforms you can actually
and
invest
what would these 8 be typically?
So we have large cap,
Right.
we have mid cap, we have liquid funds, we have corporate debt funds, we have balance funds.
Okay.
You can choose any of these. Okay. So I must tell you this.
Can I have multiple of them?
Yeah, so
My 100 can
your
go
100 can put
here,
20,
so
20, 30.
allocation gets done.
You can do it and you can change it as often as you want. No tax on withdrawals from movements from one to the other, and you can dynamically manage. So, the general belief was that people are not smart enough to decide where to invest. That was the thing I used to always get from a lot of advisors. But what we did see, Vivek, was that when the budget announcement happened, number of customers by themselves shifted to debt. And they could see, and they've been smart, right?
Yeah.
Markets
See
have
the
come down
market
10%, and they've done this by themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, Nivesh Srivastav has a question. How should we allocate our funds in ULIPs? Is there a ratio to divide between high, medium and low risk funds? I'm going to take another one along with it. Nidhi Mishra has this question. Whether current regulations of IRDA permit web aggregators to sell ULIPs? If not, how many web aggregators are selling ULIPs online? There's a third question. I'm taking this quickly because I know we're short on time. Resham has this question. Most of my investments are in FDs and mutual funds. How important is this? Is it to have an insurance policy from an investment perspective? So 3 questions. Yashish, you want to go first?
So I'll take the latter two.
Yeah.
In terms of asset allocation, I would say
Sure.
I think you guys are much better placed. So web aggregators, of course, allowed to sell ULIPs on there. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing it. And that's part of the regulation. So ULIP is a product which is allowed. Now, I think if you have investments in mutual funds, fixed deposits, great. All one is saying is ULIP is another class of investments which is very competitive. When you make investments, what do you make those for? You make those for either returns or some goal that you have, or to kind of manage your tax situation better. Basically, it's returns, tax, goals. The ULIP has the ability to manage all of those, at least for many customers, for a large section of customers, as well as a fixed deposit or a mutual fund, and maybe even better. So I would just stop there. Yes, it is when you make your next investment, is something you should definitely consider. No doubt.
You want to quickly talk about the allocation of funds? Or?
Yeah. So, given the flexibility that you have, you can choose any of these funds based on the risk calculations that possibly show your risk assessment. I'd say very simply that there are enough tools available. There's some available with us, some with PolicyBazaar, and you can figure out what kind of risk assessment do you put on yourself. Simply put, thumb rule, if you invest in direct equity, well, you should manage your fund yourself. So you could move from one scheme to the other. But otherwise, look at the risk calculators and then decide. The other thing, and I'll invite a lot of people who do portfolio management, is that what you could do is that exactly the same thing happens in mutual fund, FDs, etc. You are able to work with the portfolio manager. Here, actually, you can work by yourself and figure out where the money has to move. You don't need to figure out if you've got to open a bank account, you've got to open 5 other different kind of schemes with any other player. You can do it all in one go because you have 8 schemes with different asset allocation and move ahead. For example, if and it's a moving game today, Vivek. If somebody at 60, earlier we would have said don't take any equity investment. Now today 60 is the new 40. So at 60 you could actually take an equity investment, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. Sure. Because you also have a life cover, by the way. Sure. Taken care of entirely there.
I know you've got a flight to catch, Tarun, but I'm going to take 3-4 quick questions. They're very short questions, so you can go. I'll take them one at a time. But Vikram Singh Rawat has this question: how are units allotted in ULIPs? Then there is a question from Versha Saini: should you top up your ULIP policy if required? Neeta Singh has this question: what are the charges, fees and deductions in a ULIP? You've partly answered that in the first answer itself. Then you have a question coming in from Prashant Srivastav: I've already invested in mutual funds. What will happen to my returns? Ankit has a question around the long-term capital gains tax. Is the LTCG 2018 now ULIP a better investment than ELSS funds? How does it impact long-term investors? I know there are lots of questions, difficult to remember, but you want to start off with the LTCG?
I think the LTCG applies to mutual funds. It applies to ELSS. It does not apply to the ULIPs. That's the fact. So the answer is sort of evident in that itself. I think a lot of the other questions, I think Tarun
So I can simply take it. See, now the new age ULIPs, the charges one first, have very low charges. They're far lower than what you see in other fund management charges from other sectors. Very clearly, our scheme, for example, has a fund management charge of only 1.35%. And that's what the entire sector can charge. You can't charge for fund management beyond 1.35. In terms of how the units are allocated, it's very simple again. So trust us, guys, it's a very simple methodology now. So suppose you put 1,000 rupees and the NAV of the scheme, I'm making it very simple, is 100 rupees. So then you'll get 10 units, 1,000 divided by 100, as simple as that. You put 2,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees divided by 100. 20 units. So calculation is very simple. Transparency is very clearly with you. You can keep switching funds. There is no issue on top-ups. It's very easy. You can buy online. You can really go and go to PolicyBazaar as well and just pick up the way you want, and you also get support in terms of telecallers helping you.
So you can top up, that's the third question.
Oh, yes.
At any point of time.
At any point
The same policy, or you need to buy a fresh policy?
Same policy.
Same policy. You can time the market.
So you said 3,000 per month, you can easily keep going up.
Yes.
You can go to whatever amount you want. You can move from one type of fund to the other type of fund seamlessly with no tax implication, short term or long term. That is fairly straightforward.
See, I'd say for today's smart online investor,
This is all online.
This is all online.
This product is online.
This is online.
It's not an
all
offline
online.
product.
We're giving you portfolio management services free of cost through PolicyBazaar on your fingertips.
I think
Closing remarks.
the concept that has to be taken home by the consumer is there is a 1G, 2G, 3G and 4G of ULIPs. All these questions, or 50% of these questions, actually pertain to 1G.
Yeah.
1G is dead and gone. 1G doesn't exist any longer. But we are still talking about 1G. 1G was bad products. Consumers were in a bad shape because of that, right? But it happened before 2010. By the way, PolicyBazaar was just born in 2008-9. So we never sold that 1G ever, right? But 1G was there. But these questions about 1G, charges, hold-ons, etc. This is not about any of the others. Since 2G itself, the fund management cost is 1.35%. I'm saying here 95% of mutual funds that are sold on 2.25% FMC to the retail sector. If anybody can prove that wrong, prove it wrong. Where here the fund manager charges 1.35%. Anybody who has an Excel in their house can do an Excel for the next 20 years. What is the cost of that 0.9%? They will find out if they're investing 1 lakh rupees a year, the cost of that alone is more than 1 lakh rupees. That 0.9% जो इतना छोटा सा लगता है, it looks like a little rat roaming around there, but it's a big amount.
Yeah,
and that is bigger than every other charge we talk about.
Yeah.
So, let's just get our facts right. And if anybody wants to disprove it, come disprove it. I'm sitting here, I'm not stopping. You are here, somebody come, sit in Tarun's place and bring an Excel and kind of show me it's wrong.
Sure. Okay. Gentlemen, thank you very much. We've had a very, as always, an animated Yashish with his lovely
he's been
1G,
on fire,
2G, 3G, 4G. He's always on fire. He's an Iron Man. So you can understand why he's on fire. But thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.
A good trip back home.
Vivek, it's always been great to be on your shows.
It's always been lovely.
And I love your penchant to be transparent.
Thank you so much. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you very much.
Thank you, all of
Tarun.
you.
Thanks.
We are right here on the Money Mile. In case we missed answering some of your questions, please feel free to drop by on our page. Shoot your question. We'll be doing lots of such conversations as we go along, and we'll answer all of them. Thank you very much.